guys, welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank for another round of rapid fire comic book review. So today we've got 3 books. It's weird that I always have 3 books, but that's just sort of how it plays out. So anyway, our first issue is Batman issue 119 by Joshua Williamson. And if you recall, when we last left off with his story, Batman had gone to Bagnesia, I've butchered that too many times, to investigate the arrest of Batman Incorporated for the murder of the terrorist known as Abyss. And when he got to the crime scene and found out about Abyss, he found out that Batman Incorporated had been funded by Lex Luthor.
What did you say?
Lex Luthor.
What did you say?
It's Lex, okay? Yeah. Anyway, so Lex is like, say, hey, yeah, you know, Batman and I, we have a history. We've had our run-ins. You know, whether or not it was me blackmailing him to get on the Justice League, me selling my soul to become a Martian hybrid abomination, to help sell out the Earth and the multiverse to Doom. You know, we've got a history. And so he's saying, like, hey, I funded Batman Incorporated, and he leaves, like, a little clever hint about some wine, and we also find out that he's pretty much been funding not just Batman Incorporated, knowing about Abyss for years in the circles he'd been in, but he's also funding the city and the police department. So this is basically his town. And we see this moment he calls the police to, you know, apprehend Batman. Batman escapes and preserves the crime scene, which for some reason Lex didn't care about, or the police. But anyway, this leads to a meeting with Bruce and Lex at a restaurant that Lex had bought because he's Lex. And he talks about, hey, so in my little excursions, I've realized something. The world needs Superman, and that pains me in every fiber of my being. Lord, does it pain me. Granted, I was Superman, so, you know, I don't quite know how I feel about that. It also needs a Batman. But you're dirt poor right now. You're like a semi-millionaire now. Not enough. You've lost your greatest weapon, which is your family's vast, vaguely defined fortune in the comic books. So I'll tell you what. Since Dick Grayson, you know, kind of threw his money away on some stupid charity, don't put your fist down. I'll fund you. And currently, I'll take Abyss to my secret laboratory at LexCorp where we can just figure it out ourselves. And Batman, Bruce, not buying this, like, you know what, I'm out. He's not going to work with Lex. He doesn't trust Lex. Lex nearly doomed us all because he was caught up in his feelings. I don't fault Bruce for this. Also, no. Like, he wouldn't even let I don't think he'd let Green Arrow fund him. It's just not who he is. So, later, the detective Kaya, is talking to the police it's pretty much the chief about, hey, we can't let Lex just take this body away. We need to investigate ourselves. It has to stay within, you know, within the precinct. And it's like, well, no, Lex can, because you know how much money he's giving us. Whatever Lex wants, he gets. And yeah, this doesn't work out. Luckily, Batman has taken the body down back to the morgue to investigate himself. He's like, so, you sure this is Abyss? Because Abyss was killed 3 days ago. This body's beyond decayed. This body's, like, way ahead of that. He's been shot in the head. That wasn't what happened. And the caliber of bullets, no member of Batman Corporate used these bullets. And then the body starts getting all gross. And the lights go out. And Batman's like, okay. I'm not impressed. I'm Batman. The dark is kind of my thing. So he turns on his infrared, his night vision, like, not doing it. Still don't care. Then Abyss shows up, and they fight, and by the time Detective Kaya gets to him, it turns out that Bruce can't see at all. It's too dark. And this is the most Adam West I've ever seen of a Batman page in recent years. But overall, this issue was fun. It was nice to see Lex again. We saw him, I think, last year in the Superman Son of Kal-El annual, but that one was sort of like, alright. This feels more like Lex as we know him now, with his history, with everything that's going on. Why people still trust Lex, I don't know. But hey, the man ran for president and was elected president at one point, so who knows how anyone feels. Next, we have Batgirls issue 3 by Becky Cloonan, and I still don't know. But I'm not sure if I'm supposed to like Barbara at the end of this. I don't know. But anyway. So Steph and Cass engage with the new enemy Tutor, who actually by the end of this you're going to wonder, couldn't we just use Anarky? But anyway, Tutor comes in and he's got some fear toxin. This is his modus operandi, it seems. And we've heard of Tutor before in this book. he goes after pretty much every establishment, every authority figure. He's gone after politicians, billionaires, the GCPD, Batman, all of it. And apparently he also has Steph under some degree of control because she's also like temporarily a puppet. Cass is able to subdue her, and thankfully Cass and Steph were able to get away, and they go over what was in the fear toxin, and it was also nitrous oxide, which might explain the ability to control people. And the art is a trigger for those affected, which is okay, creative, taking the fear toxin, go a step further. Also, there's probably still a lot of fear toxin left over from the events of Fear State, so makes sense to go that route. They weren't able to find anything else on it, and they weren't able to find any prints on the flyer that he was giving out, but they decided to use that as a base for his art exhibit. Like, you know what? That's where we'll go. So they set up a plan. So the night before the exhibit, they're going to, case the place out, case the perimeter, map out multiple exit strategies, have a plan when they go there. And then they set up a microgrid, which will enable Babs to monitor all cell phone communications and be able to track people through their phone location. I'm like, okay, big, sort of big brother here going on, but all right. And the idea seems to be, Steph's like, okay, so all three of us go. It'll be like a Charlie's Angels thing. Babs like, no, I'm not going. I hate art exhibits, and I've been to too many, and I also still have to work on my network because, we're still dealing with Seer. And lo and behold, she still goes there, and she meets Charles Dante, who was an ex of Babs's in Burnside College. I'm like, okay, sure, let's dig up Burnside again, because nothing was better than Burnside, except every story that came before it. But anyway, this guy's, of course, and he landed a residency at Arkham Asylum, but like everyone that worked at Arkham Asylum, or actually like the few people that did do work at Arkham Asylum, he is left, he's sane, and he's alive. So, yeah, he's working on art therapy now, so I'm like, okay, cool. And, he's just really happy to see Babs again. Like, it's sort of like left on, I guess, neutral grounds. Like, hey, no one hated anybody, he didn't turn out to be evil, the thing. And then we get to Tudor's exhibit, his big exhibit, which is, yeah, it doesn't matter what it's supposed to be. It matters what it's made of, which is a bunch of stolen appliances. Tudor has stolen people's stuff, not just like toasters, he's stolen TVs, X-Station, laptops, bikes, phones, and then Tudor comes in going like, yeah, dude, I just stole materialism, stuff, things, greed. And stop thinking what it costs you. The price of convenience. The average human lifespan is about 600,000 hours. 1/3 of that we spend asleep. I'm trying to wake you up, guys. All right? What do we do with our money? We give it to the billionaires, the pigs, the bats, whatever parasites come to leech off our hard work under the idea of like they know what's best for us. Like, nah, man, wake up. I'm like, why isn't this just anarchy? Anyway. Babs tries to figure out what's going on there while Steph and Cass go after Tudor. And, Charles doesn't quite know what's going on. He thinks that, Babs is like also talking to him. He's like, hey, you know what? So, I gotta go. So how about I just give you my card and we'll meet up for coffee or something? And it's sort of implied that Babs is flirting. I don't think she is, but if she is, kind of trashy. Because she's, if I'm not mistaken, still married / dating / making out with Dick Grayson. Anyway, Steph and Cass apprehend Tudor. Tudor's also implying that he's still broadcasting this live, so there's that. And Steph still seems to be under some sort of version of Tudor's control. But luckily, Cass is able to get Steph out of there, as well as plant a micro tracer on Tudor, so they'll be able to follow him later. So they decide to regroup now. And apparently the Saints, the extremist group of the Magistrate, because yeah, the Magistrate wasn't already extreme. Okay. It was almost like the Magistrate was poorly defined and set up. Who knows? They decide they'll deal with him later. Thinking that the Batgirls will go after him. They don't. And Cass later delivers the crockpot to the guy who said he was missing his wife's crockpot. So, yeah, nice, tender, really moment to sort of solidify the idea that the Batgirls are going to have this sort of community feel to them, which I don't dislike. It'll work. Anyway, that night, Babs is looking at the card of Charles Dante like, never thought I'd see him again. And I'm like, are you about to be messy? Are you about to be messy, Babs? She gets a phone call. It's Dick Grayson. Oh, that's That's convenient. Hey, you're thinking about your ex, your boyfriend calls, or your husband calls, you know. Babs starts like, flirt, have some fun, like, And then it turns out this isn't Dick, it's Seer. Seer sort of like call. So it turns out this isn't Dick Grayson, thank heavens, it's actually Seer. And Seer's like calling out, like, you are such a loser. How do you have a boyfriend? It won't last because they're going to find out that you're trash. And I'm like, well, if she was flirting with her ex, yeah, kind of trash. So it turns out Seer's not only hacked the phone, but has also hacked Babs' new network. And I still don't get the point of Seer. Like I get what Seer's doing, but I don't get Seer. Anyway, Seer goes down. Seer says, "Hey, I got a surprise for you." She goes down to the network, and it sees that, well, Dick Grayson's been tied up and is a bloody mess. And that's how the comic ends. So I still don't quite see the direction for this book. Like, I get what we're trying to do, and the art is still weird to me. But we've got the Tudors. We got Tudor. We've got the Saints. And now we still have Seer. So we've got 3 enemies going through here. And always one just sort of gets like, hey, we're here. We're the Saints. Let's get mentioned. And that's kind of it. Like, I think we'd be better off if we dealt with one or the other. With like 1 to 2. And then just let the other one come up later. And the whole story with Seer's been building up for a while. And I still have no idea what Seer is. Like, I get Seer's taken over her network, and I get that Seer seems to really hate Barbara Gordon, but that's kind of it. And Seer doesn't seem that interesting because Seer doesn't do anything other than harass Barbara Gordon. That's it. So I'm just gonna, like, I don't hate it, but I'm not in love with it, so I'm gonna stick with this as long as I can. Hopefully the art will change, so I'll stop complaining about that. But overall, it was alright, I guess. And finally, we have Dark Knights of Steel issue 2. So when we last saw with Dark Knights of Steel, King Jor-El had been shot by Green Arrow. Or at least a guy that is clearly Green Arrow, but doesn't call himself Green Arrow yet. And of course, Laura and Kal-El see it, and they're like sad. And Bruce and Alfred go after the assassin, and they get him, cut his arm off. And then we cut to the Kingdom of Storms, where Constantine is met by the Green Man, who says, like, yeah, it's done. It's done. And he's like, oh, good. I'm sure this won't blow up in our face later. So the Kingdom of Storms is ruled by King Jefferson, King Pierce, and his Thunder Children. And he's helping them train. Like, Anna's working on her Thunder, Jennifer's working on her Lightning, and Jacob can call the rain. And it turns out Jacob is the first member of the family in generations to be able to call the rain down. Anyway, Constantine wants to talk about, hey, yeah, so it's done. The Green Man took care of King Jor-El. That's one down. And I know you had this prophecy that, Jor-El and his kingdom will be a threat to us. Like, these aliens. But you think that maybe, just maybe, and, I'm guilty of this too because I haven't told you the prophecy, but you think that just maybe killing Jor-El might be what sets this all up. You ever think that maybe we've done the wrong thing here? And I know, sure. Jor-El's kingdom is weird. But that's just because that Bruce Wayne kid, that Black Knight guy, has a real vendetta against magic, and we all know why. He's got some issues with it. But you ever think that maybe we've gone too far? Like, no, my job is to protect my kingdom and my family. So your plan is to only kill one of the superpowered people one at a time? Alright, sure. I'm sure that won't blow up in our face. Meanwhile, back at the kingdom, the court decides to talk about what to do. Waller, who of course is here, says, like, this clearly is from Pierce. We can, from King Pierce. He's been this problem, so we should go to war. Alfred's like, as the one who survived the last war, I think we shouldn't be doing that. We should probably figure out. The Queen, Lara, wants to, like, what, before I go to war, before I do this, I want concrete proof that Pierce was behind it. So I'm like, okay, good. Cool heads must prevail. Bruce says, like, look, we'll interrogate them and we'll figure it out, and we'll do what needs to be done. Cal's like, what, this is a family matter. Bruce is not one of us. He doesn't get a say in this. Then let me know when the archer comes to. I'll deal with him myself. This is pretty much just because Cal is mad. Like, his dad just died, and Bruce was charged with protecting him, and he failed. So it's a nice moment. It's also kind of hilarious that we're seeing the scene with the throne and Cal telling Bruce he's not one of us, when in reality he is, and he was basically set to be king. Meanwhile, on Amazon Island, Lois, who I'm guessing is an ambassador for Amazon Island, is coming to deliver grave news, which is, yeah, the king's been killed. And Hippolyta's like, oh crap, I gotta go. You want to come with me? Like, I gotta go tell the princess. She tells Princess Diana and her girlfriend Zala. And tell, like, hey Zala, your father Jor-El's been killed. And she's like, I gotta go. He's like, yeah, I know. If you need anything, call me. I'm like, okay, cool. They kiss, and she flies off. And then we cut back to the dungeon where Harley, the court jester, also sort of like the advisor, says, like, you know what, I think this is a problem. You might have to talk to the queen to make sure that she doesn't go through with this war if it comes to that. To which, you know, Bruce is like, you know, that's really not my job, and if this has happened, we should fight. You know, you just go around assassinating monarchs. And whatever this prophecy is, we'll deal with it when we deal with it. And it's also a question, like, you know, that Bruce has, like, locked up all these people without charge as a precaution. It's kind of shady, kind of, like, not productive in itself. Then, of course, Kal-El interrogates, I think his name, we'll just call him Ollie, because it's clearly Ollie. Or it could be Speedy, who knows. Anyway. He says, like, you know, I could kill you. He's like, yeah, I don't care. And it puts you people down. Like, you know, my father was a good man. Like, no, your father was a monster. You're a monster. You've convinced yourselves that you're like us, that you're men. But you're not. No. And Cal's like, you know, I'm not going to kill you because I was raised better. I'm like, okay, cool. So it seems like cooler heads will prevail until later that night, Zala shows up and she kills King Jefferson's son, Jacob. The king fires some lightning, and Zala says, it just sort of tickles. And that's how the comic ends. So yeah, prophecy. Don't do it, kids. This was, I think, an alright issue. Like, you know, the king just died, so we're dealing with the fallout of that. And we're seeing other things like Amazon Island, Zala, who's pretty much just Kara, but reimagined as the daughter of Jor-El and Lara. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. The fact that it seems that Kal-El doesn't know that Bruce is his half-brother makes sense. I like that Bruce is mostly in the background for the story as the bigger players are coming in, or the new players, sort of. Like, what role will Themyscira have in this role, or Amazon Island have in this? We'll find out soon enough. Who is this green man? And it's nice to know that someone said, like, you know, this prophecy might be a bunch of bull, and we might have made things worse. Who'd have thought that killing off a monarch would set off a whole bunch of dominoes? Except everyone with a brain. Anyway, with that in mind, brings video to close you. If you're new to the Bug Think Tank, if you like, comment, share, subscribe, check out some other videos, and I'll catch you all later. This is the Bug Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching. As always, may your fandom serve you well.